This lost mulch beats wood chips every time, and honestly, no one talks about it. Before we go any further, if you're serious about building soil that feeds plants for years instead of just covering the ground, subscribe to Evergreen Garden right now and, well, drop a comment below, because this is one of those techniques that quietly separates thriving gardens from struggling ones. Most gardeners are spending money hauling bags and spreading wood chips everywhere, while the most powerful mulch is literally falling from the sky and getting thrown away. And the reason it's so powerful has everything to do with how soil actually works, not just what looks neat on the surface. This mulch is leaf mold, and it outperforms wood chips in almost every way that matters to plants. So why does leaf mold behave so differently from wood chips in living soil? Well, wood chips are really carbon-heavy, slow to break down, and honestly, they're excellent for paths or long-term surface coverage, but they're not designed to feed soil quickly. Leaf mold, on the other hand, is already partially decomposed organic matter, and it's created by fungi, not bacteria. That difference actually matters more than most gardeners realize. Fungal-dominated decomposition, it actually mirrors what happens naturally in forests, where trees thrive without fertilizers or constant disturbance. When leaves decompose slowly through fungal activity, they form this soft, crumbly material that integrates directly into the soil food web instead of just sitting on top like a barrier. Leaf mold doesn't steal nitrogen the way fresh wood chips can. When you spread wood chips around vegetables or young perennials, microbes pull nitrogen from the soil to break them down, and that often leaves plants looking pale and growing slow. Leaf mold arrives already stable, and it improves soil immediately, without that nutrient tug-of-war happening underground. One of the biggest hidden strengths of leaf mold is, honestly, its water-holding capacity. Fully decomposed leaf mold can absorb up to 5 times its weight in water and then, release it slowly as the soil dries. This means fewer irrigation cycles, deeper root growth, and, plants that are far more resilient during those dry spells. In raised beds, this can mean watering every 5 to 7 days instead of every 2 or 3, depending on your climate. When applied at a depth of 5 to 7 centimeters around vegetables, leaf mold acts like a sponge layer. Water penetrates easily, unlike wood chips, which can actually repel water when they're dry, then slowly moves downward into the root zone. In sandy soils, this dramatically reduces leaching. In clay soils, it improves infiltration and prevents surface cracking. Soil isn't fed by mulch directly. Soil is actually fed by microorganisms, and leaf mold is a direct food source for fungi, beneficial bacteria, protozoa, and earthworms. Wood chips will eventually feed fungi, but it can take a year or more before any meaningful biological activity really ramps up. Leaf mold, on the other hand, is already biologically active when applied. Gardeners who use leaf mold regularly notice increased worm populations within just a few weeks. Earthworms pull it down into the soil profile, mixing organic matter naturally without the need for tilling. That alone, honestly, improves aeration, nutrient cycling, and soil structure far better than mechanical methods ever could. In perennial beds, shrubs, and fruit trees, this fungal boost, it really improves nutrient exchange through mycorrhizal networks. Plants gain access to phosphorus, trace minerals, and water they simply cannot reach on their own. So how do you make leaf mold without any equipment or complicated systems? Well, leaf mold does not require turning, layering, or even precise ratios. That's actually part of why it has been forgotten. All you need to do is collect fallen leaves, preferably from deciduous trees, and store them in a pile, a wire enclosure, or breathable bags. Shredding will speed things up a bit, but honestly, it's not mandatory. Whole leaves will break down just fine given enough time. If you want faster results, just mix shredded leaves with a small amount of green material, such as fresh grass clippings, at a ratio of about 10 parts leaves to 1 part green matter by volume. This will, jumpstart microbial activity without turning the pile into hot compost. Be sure to keep the pile moist, but not wet. Within 6 to 9 months, you'll have partially decomposed leaf mold that's suitable for mulching. Fully finished leaf mold, though, typically takes 12 to 18 months and looks dark, soft, and soil-like. Here's how to apply leaf mold correctly for vegetables, trees, and beds. For vegetable gardens, apply leaf mold at a thickness of 5 centimeters around your plants once the soil has warmed in spring. For heavy feeders like tomatoes, squash, and brassicas, you can go up to 7 centimeters. Just remember to keep it a few centimeters away from stems to prevent excess moisture buildup. For fruit trees and shrubs, you'll want to spread leaf mold in a wide ring that extends right out to the drip line at a depth of about 7 to 10 centimeters. This, you see, really mimics forest conditions, where leaf litter naturally accumulates. Over time, this approach improves root depth, boosts fruit quality, and, enhances overall resilience without the need for fertilizers. In flower beds and perennial borders, leaf mold can actually be used all year round. In autumn, applying a thicker layer of about 10 centimeters helps protect soil organisms and prevents erosion. By the time spring arrives, much of that leaf mold will have settled into the soil, leaving, a perfect surface for planting. So, why does leaf mold improve soil structure faster than wood chips? Well, soil structure depends on stable aggregates, not just the amount of organic matter. Leaf mold adds humus, which binds soil particles into those aggregates that resist compaction while holding both air and water. Wood chips, on the other hand, contribute bulk but take much longer to actually become humus. This is why gardens mulched with leaf mold for just 2 seasons often show, dramatic improvements in tilth, root penetration, and drainage. In compacted soils, repeated leaf mold applications can reduce the need for mechanical loosening entirely. Roots follow worm channels, fungi bind particles, and the soil heals itself, really quite naturally. Why most gardeners overlook leaf mold, despite its advantages, is, a bit surprising. Leaf mold doesn't come in bags with marketing labels. It doesn't look impressive on day one. It works quietly underground, which makes it invisible to many gardeners. Modern gardening culture, honestly, favors speed and appearance over long-term soil health. Leaf mold really does reward patience, observation, and a good understanding of how ecosystems function. Once gardeners experience the difference in moisture retention, plant vigor, and reduced pest pressure, they rarely go back to relying on wood chips alone. Now let's talk about how leaf mold and wood chips can actually work together strategically. This isn't about banning wood chips entirely. Wood chips truly excel on paths around large trees and in areas where you want long-lasting surface coverage. Meanwhile, leaf mold excels where roots live and soil biology really matters most. Some gardeners use a thin base layer of leaf mold directly on soil, topped with a light layer of wood chips for, aesthetics and evaporation control. In that case, the leaf mold remains in contact with soil, feeding life, while the chips protect it from sun and wind. So, the key is understanding function, not following trends. If you want a garden that improves every year instead of resetting every season, leaf mold is not optional, it is foundational. If this guide helped you see mulch differently, then do consider subscribing to Evergreen Garden. Share this with a fellow gardener who's still buying wood chips. And, well, leave a comment below about how you plan to start using leaf mold in your own garden. This channel is about building living soil that lasts, and honestly, this is one of the most powerful tools you can use.